most people, just like me, it's a case of, I want to get out of here. I want to get out of this country. I want to leave this job. I want to leave this organization. I want to join a new team. However, I believe there are questions that we always have to ask ourselves. It's not just a question of, is it a good job? Does it pay well? But it's a question of, is it a right job for me? Is it the right move for me and my family? And sometimes it's all right to say no. It's okay to say no, because in saying no, you learn, you grow, and you align. And I know a lot of people do make mistakes when an opportunity presents itself. They are so desperate that they overlook certain key questions. And I'm not saying I'm immune to that. Half the time I do that. Until when I was about to relocate to the UK, I had to pause. I had to rethink the whole thing. I had to weigh in and consider a few things and really put myself first. And this is not just when you're coming from abroad, but even when you are within the country. The questions that you have to ask yourself, because I know there's this whole switching frenzy. There's this whole, I want to join this organization. I want to move from domiciliary to the NHS to wherever. I'll always ask yourself if it's the right move for you, if it's the right transition for your family, for what you stand for, what you believe in, before you make the big move. Just ask yourself those questions before you jump into accepting. And then you realize midway, or when you're knee deep in trouble, that this wasn't perfect for me. So these are the things that I do consider when I'm moving an organization. And I had to say no to 2 organizations that offered to sponsor me from Africa to the UK until I knew I was moving with the right organization. Do you know what is crazy? It's the fact that on my relocation journey, I turned down 2 offers that offered sponsorship. And for those of you that have relocated to the UK, you know that when you hear certificate of sponsorship, then that is almost what I can say, the opportunity that everybody back then, from 2020, 2021, 22 to 2025 was the buzzword and was what everybody had waited. And for those of you that have followed my journey, sharing how I relocated to the UK as a caregiver, you know how much I waited, nearly 2 years for me to relocate. 2 years of waiting, 2 years of paperwork, 2 years of intense application. However, I ended up having to turn down 2 offers with sponsorship. And I know it's crazy. It looked good on paper. Good pay, good relocation packages, promises of growth. However, there's something that I've grown to learn. There's something that I've come to learn over the years. That sometimes what looks good on paper may cost you your peace, may even cost you your purpose and alignment to your goals and values. And so today I'm going to share with you my journey. I'm going to be sharing with you how I turned down these 2 offers with sponsorship and waited until what I deem the right opportunity came along. And this is the absolute truth. And I do hope you draw a few lessons from it without wasting much of your time. Let's get right into it. I'll be really honest, when the offers came through, I had waited and waited too long, and I was so excited. Who wouldn't be excited to really get an offer that affords you an opportunity to relocate to the UK, to the diaspora? And I'm not sharing this video just to speak to people relocating or that have relocated to the UK alone, but anything to do with the diaspora. If you are from a background that is the same as mine, I've shared in so many videos my background, and I'll continue to share my journey in reference to where I grew up. You would know when an offer comes your way, then you need to grab it with both hands. And especially after how long I'd waited, really this was the rightful moment. And these offers came in quick succession. I think within 2 weeks of each other, these offers came along. And the temptation to just accept and begin the process was just far more reaching. But I do remember my husband really said to me, Flo, you need to pause and wait and think through this decision, because this is a big decision. This could be a make or break situation. And therefore, I slowed down. I took a pause and began to ask myself a few questions, not just about the job. And this is another mistake that a lot of people, especially career people, make. All they focus on when they're asking questions or when they're doing their research is just about the job. But I looked at the environment, I looked at the people, I looked as well at the values of these organizations that were about to offer me a life-changing opportunity. There was a lot of digging in to do. And the reason why I was doing all of this was to make sure that all these things aligned with my values, aligned with my family goals, aligned with everything that I stand for, aligned with the things that really make me happy, and aligned as well with my family goals and how I wanted to raise my family. So it was really worth it and well calculated pause and just to think through everything. And as such, I started to pay attention to detail, not only to what they were offering, but how they were offering it. How was their communication? I do remember one of the organizations that I turned down when they reached out to me. They emailed me fine in response to my application. However, just after the first interview, they said, well, you're going to be added to a WhatsApp group. For me, that was a big red flag, a big no. So I began to question that. And also part and parcel of why I really pay attention and what made me make this video and reflect on all of these things is because of all the things that happened afterwards. I came to the UK in 2022, and between 2023 and 25, we've seen a lot of organizations have their sponsorship licenses revoked. We've had and seen a lot of modern day slavery, a lot of abuse, a lot of things went on around the certificate of sponsorship, especially with the care visa. And above everything, we have seen the total closure of the care worker visa in the UK. And I attribute most of these things to our own doing, the employers doing as well. We all contributed to all of this chaos. And part and parcel of why I'm saying this, I'll be drilling down as I reflect on my journey, as I reflect on some of the things that I saw during the engagement process and that stood out as red flags and resulted in me saying no to these organizations. And speaking of communication, for me, no matter how much I want something, if communication is not respectful, if communication is not transparent, then for me, that's a really big red flag. And I was seeing some of those things as I was engaging with prospective sponsors for me to relocate to the UK. And I didn't like the sound of that. So it's part and parcel of the things that I really paid much attention to. Also, clarity and respect for time. If I was to attend a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, or because most of these interviews could not happen in person during that time because of the location of the job itself and of the interviewer, so everything would happen online. Some would say, well, I've had an interview over the phone. For me, there's something that is not right about it. But again, organizations differ. But for me, there are things that I consider and those tick. So being put in a WhatsApp group, being called over the phone for an interview, what happened to paper trail and all the formal communication professional that speak, we're really serious about engaging you, we're quite serious about getting you on board. So those are some of the questions that I would ask myself, that I would also use to vet who to go with. In as much as I so badly wanted to get out of the country, wanted so badly to relocate to the UK, I still had to ask those questions. The interview process. This is a big one for me. I always look at how it's conducted. Is it consistent? Is it not a rushed thing? Is it thoughtful? I'm so sensitive to those things, partly because of probably maybe my background, partly because of the exposure that I've had in life, really working with bigger organizations. So part and parcel of why I discounted two of these organizations was the fact that there was no coherence in the way they would schedule and do their interviews. And I'll give you a snippet of how I ended up going with the organization that I came with. I had to go through a 4-stage interview process. Partly it's because the recruiter that initially engaged me was an agent. So they were quite upfront with me and very clear. They said, oh, we're scheduling this interview with you because we are recruiting on behalf of an organization. They were so clear with me. They were so upfront with me to say, we are only a recruitment agency. So we interview you. If you're the right fit for the industry, then we will match you with a prospective employer. So that was my initial interview. It was a get to know me interview. It was a get to know my qualifications interview. It was get to know if I could match different organizations that they worked or were recruiting for. So we moved on to the second stage of the interview, which I was communicated well in advance for. This was an interview with the prospective employer. And in that interview, it wasn't just a 2-person interview. The initial one was a 3-panel interview, and I was the 4th person. This was on Zoom/Teams. I'm not too sure now. Again, when I had the interview with the employer, it was again a panel. So each and every member of the panel had a chance to ask me questions. And when I reflect and compare it with the other interviews that I did with the other 2 organizations, it was just a 1-person interview. So that really stood out for me. It spoke volumes about the organization. It spoke professionalism, how seriously they were taking this opportunity. And for me, they ticked the boxes. I've shared with you how I had a 1-person interview and versus a panel interview. Other thing that I was paying attention to in all of these conversations that I had with prospective employers was how they spoke about their employees. How were they speaking about their staff members? Were they speaking respectfully about them? Were they talking about support, development, and valuing their employees? I am quite sensitive like that. Even now, if I'm talking to someone or I'm talking to a manager or whoever, I really pay attention to how they speak about their staff. How they treat their staff is a big thing for me. And the fact that they showed up as a panel shows that they value each and everyone's judgment. It's not just a 1-person making decisions, which is what I didn't like with the other organizations. So for me, it was a big deal, and that's why I chose that organization. These things really do matter. Why I say that is because imagine if someone cannot speak highly of their staff, if someone is not speaking with clarity during the hiring phase, imagine how they would communicate or how they would speak once you are on board. Imagine how they would handle conflict, fairness, or anything to do with well-being and employee welfare. So for me, I was so particular about those things, because this is not just a job, but this is you signing up for your next life. And I wasn't about to just sign up just for the opportunity, but I wanted whatever that I was walking into to align with the life that I was scripting and becoming for myself and for my family. I was being very intentional about it. And remember, for those of you that do follow me, that have been following me on this journey, I've spoken about how I spent 7 years within an organization and I felt unvalued. So I'm a bit sensitive really about opportunities, about where I work, and about how I get treated and how I treat others, because I've been in places, I've been somewhere, and I will continue to explore all those things. I think I'll share my previous experiences on this platform so that we can continue to grow together. We can continue to tap into some of the things that stand out as deal breakers, especially if we are transitioning in our careers, if we're progressing work-wise, if we're progressing career-wise. There are things that we have to pay particular attention to for the sake of growth and success and peace of mind as well. One of the questions that I get asked really, especially when I tap into this story in particular, is where were these 2 organizations located? One was in Leeds and one was in Manchester. And as a family person, whatever I do, I always think about my family. They come first. Whatever decision I make, I always think about my family, and I have to make it work around them. So these are big cities. For those of you that are watching and you haven't been to the UK, Leeds is quite big, Manchester is quite big. But would that suit the way I wanted to raise my children, how I wanted to have the work-life balance? Would that work for me? I always say, if success comes at a cost to my parenting role, if it's coming at the expense of my family peace, then I don't want it. And some would say, why would it not suit you? Where I come from a very small place, really. So I knew pretty well that I wanted to raise my family in a very laid-back community. I wouldn't thrive in a big city. And I think I'll share in a separate video why I think I wouldn't survive in a big city. And I've been to big cities visiting. I've been to bigger places visiting. And I know they're good for visiting, but not for me staying. I wouldn't cope. I wouldn't really thrive. The way I am, the way I function, I prioritize doing things at my own pace. So being thrown in a fast-paced environment would be like just me being thrown in the deep end. So I knew pretty well, if I had no other options, I would go with that. That's why I was willing to wait a little bit and see what other opportunities would I come across. And thank goodness, again, the opportunity to relocate to Cumbria came along, and it had already ticked the other boxes, and so location became just the perfect icing on top of the cake. I don't know how many times I say this, that relocation isn't just about just moving places, but it's about uprooting your whole life that you've always known. It's about changing schools. It's about leaving everything behind. So I knew I had to make a good decision, a good choice, especially to do right by my family. I knew it meant starting all over, but what can be worse really when you relocate is when you choose to relocate to an environment that is so unfamiliar to you, that doesn't align with what you believe in, what you've always envisioned. And that was my wildest, craziest nightmare. If I had to relocate to somewhere that doesn't resonate with my family, with my values, with my interests, and how I want to raise my children, that would have been the worst nightmare ever. It was bad enough. I was leaving everyone behind. I don't have much family over here. But I knew if I am in an environment where I can raise my children at my own pace, do things at my own pace, and adjust, I would thrive. So definitely this Cambrian opportunity would have been any perfect. One of the things that I did go all out on was doing my research about the organization I was joining. I had to look at their staff turnover. I had to look at the reviews for the organization. I had to look at their values and what they stand for. I had to look at all those things. I'd never done something like that because I've always worked for one organization, the one that I trained for, and then transitioned into a sister company. But on relocation to the UK, one of the things that I'm grateful I did was to do my due diligence. A lot of people do underestimate that. And when I look at what happened afterwards, or what's been happening with the care worker visa, I'm grateful I did my due diligence. And I've continued to do all of that, even as I continue to grow and progress career-wise. Now in the UK, I do a lot of due diligence. It does help me to see all the red flags. It points out to a lot of other things that the emotion or the excitement of relocating to the UK would have overlooked. Only research can point out to you, oh, that's a red flag, or only research about an organization really can point you out to probably an organization that can suit your lifestyle. And if ever in my life I have really had to learn about work-life balance, it's on this journey relocating to the UK. It's something that we never really thought about and prioritized when we were back home in Zimbabwe. Why? It was because we were always surrounded by family, always surrounded by help. We had house help, we could afford house help. But relocating over here, that's when you realize you need that balance, because you don't have house help, you don't have much family around you. Even if you do have, everybody works in this country. Things are just so fast. The rules are different from how we would parent back home. So we had to work around our children. We had to work around each other's jobs and work schedule. And so if that job does not give you the work-life balance that you require, burnout creeps in, frustration creeps in, and you begin really to be a frustrated individual. And on top of that, we're talking about the job itself. It comes with its own pressures, and you doing it in a different country altogether, it comes with its own pressure. So definitely doing my due diligence about the work patterns in that workplace gave me some pointers. I do remember one of the offers that I got was in a care home, and it was a night shift contract. I'd never done night shifts before, and the fact that it was that fixed contract where I do nights only made it even difficult. I felt like my life has just been taken over. If I'm working nights, it means during the day I'm always asleep. It would disrupt all the routines. And I did my research on the effects of working nights on health and well-being. So part and parcel of why I didn't go with that organization was just because of that. Thank goodness I did my own research around that and how it would affect me. Of course, it came with good money, but the lifestyle that I wanted, how I wanted to be present, would not work along that. So I thank God I did my research. I wanted those jobs that gives me the balance. I wanted those jobs that would allow me to be a present parent, be there for my children whenever I can. And I know, funny enough, we work so hard in this country, but it's the intention, it's being intentional about the choices that we make. Even as we fail along the way, we fail to be there, we're constantly working, but at least the intention is there. And part of what guides me into this intentional living is the fact that I'm always conscious of the fact that I'm raising girls and my girls are watching me, not just watching which jobs I do, not just watching what career I have, but how I decide which jobs to take and which jobs to let go. So that decision making process is always centered around when my kids look at me, when my kids are going to look at these decisions, what is it that they will learn from that? What is it that they will think about it and think about me as a mom, as a parent, and as a working mom above everything. So I put them first in whatever that I do and choose. The other one was domiciliary, the Leeds one. However, I didn't like the work patterns. When I asked some of the questions that I asked about, was it a fixed rota? Would I have fixed off days or anything? They couldn't really give me a clear answer. But as a parent, it was one of the things that I wanted to know, because I knew at some point I have to be there for the children. I have to be a present parent. I didn't want to miss out on them growing up simply because I was working. Brilliant enough, it's a life-changing opportunity for me, a life-changing opportunity for them. But I wanted to do that with them. I wanted to be a part and parcel of their day-to-day life. Be involved in those shared experiences was a big deal for me. So I couldn't really get that. I didn't get that at all. It wasn't clear. It was just, it will be worked out based on what stuff we have. And I knew that was a red flag. Whereas this organization that I came with, I can talk for the whole day, pointing out on all the things that they checked, from the contract, from how they answered my questions and concerns, from how they even asked me before we had even gone any further about if I had a family or not, and how they were happy that they had other people who had families who had come from abroad and had joined their organization. And when I was doing their research, I went on their website, I went on their social handles, and I had seen that there were other Zimbabweans that had actually relocated just a few months before I did. And they shared their experiences. They spoke positively about this organization in particular, and I knew I was on a path. As part and parcel of my researches, I reached out to one of the ladies who had been posted on their social media handles and quite helpful. A big shout out to her, because she answered all the questions that I had, made my decision making process quite easy, letting go the other two just to pick this one. As much as it was all care work, there were other things that really were different and were big deal breakers for me as a mom relocating to a new country with young girls. So here is the truth. Opportunities do come, but some come really looking all shiny. But I've learned that all that glitters isn't gold. Some opportunities will come with relocation packages, sponsorship, a lot of other things that are shiny. But I always want to look with a microscope at every opportunity as and when it comes. What good is an opportunity if it does cost you peace of mind, clarity, end up compromising on your values as a person, as a family, and what you stand for? What good is that opportunity? Is one of the questions that I always ask myself whenever I'm presented with an opportunity. For me, my values are my compass, and they guide me in every decision that I make. They guide how I pick opportunities, how I choose which opportunities to let go and which opportunities to hold on to. And sometimes I've been in situations where there's been delay. I've been in situations where I've had to wait even longer. But I prioritize my values. They guide me. They are deal breakers. I stand on those principles, and they guide whatever decision that I make, especially around opportunities. Integrity for me is non-negotiable. My values, non-negotiable. What I stand as far as family is concerned, non-negotiable as well. So I look at that. When an opportunity comes, I look at how it fits into all of those things. I look at how it speaks to how I want to raise my family, how I want to match and mesh family life into career. I do hope I've spoken to someone. I hope I've answered someone's questions or someone's doubt in this video. If I've done so, please leave a comment, give us a like, and do share our videos, and also subscribe and join our community of growth and success in the diaspora as we explore the next phase in the diaspora life. As a newbie, as a family, we're going to be exploring in this coming season life in the diaspora and our journey we're going to be sharing with you. So join us. That's all I had for you in this video. My name is Florence, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.